Interesting. Let me go back to Honorable West Idahosa in our Abuja studio. We've seen a lot of defection from the AC to the PDP, the Senator Ogunlewe, in the early time of around 1990, early 2000. We saw that happen. We saw Governor Hakim move from the PPA to the PDP. We've seen a lot of defections in our political history. Do you agree, based on this, do you agree with Barrister Ogunade based on his submissions?
Well, I think his submission is very simplistic. You have to appreciate the fact that nobody is voted to represent political parties. You have to appreciate the fact that you are dealing with a country with 170 million thereabout, for example, and how many of these people constitute the political parties. I do say that the purpose of the political parties is purely to provide a platform for the Nigerian people to make their choice. So the fact that you have been elected on the people of on the platform of the PDP or APC, for example, doesn't make you a PDP legislator or an APC legislator simplistically, to the point that when you disagree and leave that party, then of course you forfeit your seat. That is ironical, because if that were to happen, that will mean that such a representative is representing the political party rather than representing the constituency. And that's why, as I have argued, it might be correct that that is the law as of today, but I think scientifically that law requires a review, because even as we speak, 7 senators and 7 congressmen in the United States do switch parties, as is fondly called, maybe not as often as we do in this country. 7 governors do switch parties in that country and retain their mandate. This is verifiable, and so I insist very strongly that the basis for representation must be tied to the constituency, the people themselves. My learned friend has talked so much about the people, and that's why I agree with him that it is the people that matter, not the political parties. The political parties are convenient vehicles to reach the destination which the people want you to get to. And that's why if we had independent candidacies in this country, a lot of independents will defeat these political parties flatly on the basis of performance, capability, perception of the Nigerian people. So it is not correct that because the Constitution is the way it is now, that it is not a reviewable document. I do strongly suggest that that section of the Constitution ought to be looked at again and deeply reviewed. Indeed, I'm an apostle of the fact that we are over-regulated. We are hoping to get to what we call liberal democracy. And in liberal democracy, the people matter so much so that laws cannot constrain a representative, for example, to remain in the political platform where he can no longer represent the wishes of the people as he promised to do, or where he believes that the policies of the party have been overtaken by changing times and is unable to change those policies within the party. He should have the liberty and the leverage to look for a platform which is synonymous with his promise to the electorate. And that's why I think that it's not a straitjacket thing. You cannot simply say because you have been elected on the platform of one party, you must remain there, and the alternative is to vacate your seat as if you are elected to represent that party.
You were to advise or in the process of the amendment, because Professor Jega is proposing an amendment of this particular portion of the law. What would you advise, especially as we have a seemingly imbalanced treatment of the law on the executives and the legislature? You earlier said that for the legislature, it's very clear, but for the executive, it seems as if they are a bit protected by this portion of the law. What would you advise if you are in that position?
My advice is that they should expunge even that section of the law now that is giving room to check those who wish to defect. There shouldn't be anything like that in the Constitution of Nigeria. At best, that should be a party obligation, and you cannot impede the growth of a democratic culture. You cannot stop a cultural revolution. You cannot stop the process of a growing democracy. So these artificial bottlenecks about who gets where, who stays where, and so on, as I said, are completely not elements of liberal democracy. And it doesn't make sense that people are limited to a political party and constrained to represent a political party rather than represent the people. So my advice and my recommendation is that section should be expunged from the Nigerian constitution. There are more critical elements of our national life to be dealt with in that constitution.
Take a look at what some of the portion of that particular law talks about. Maybe we can get some clarity on what my guests are talking about on this issue of defection. Well, there's a section 68 of the Nigerian Constitution, a very, very interesting portion, which says that a member of the Senate or of the House of Representatives shall vacate his seat in the house of which he is a member of. Now, let's critically look at this portion. Is a subsection G, which says, being a person whose election to the House was sponsored by a political party, he becomes a member of another political party before the expiration of the period for which that House was elected. Barrister Ogunade, you said that it's simple for INEC to say, vacate the seat. But based on these, we've not seen that happen.
That's what I'm saying. That is, you see, this is akin to you being made a hawk, and you are not able to pick chickens. The power is there. He said it's simple. It's as simple as that, because INEC has the power to monitor political activities. We call them the election monitoring body. Except you are appointed, INEC has no power in your office if you are appointed. But if you are elected, anybody who occupies an elective office, particularly in this regard, INEC has the power to monitor the activities. For your information, when we started our interaction with INEC, they started, of course, the issue of security, movement of electoral officers and so on and so forth. There won't be time for that now, right? To the extent I would say, no, governors are not representative. You don't accredit governors as election observers. It is we that because when governors move around, from our own experience, we found out that they go with their security men and some thugs hide within them, and of course they still vote and commit all sorts of atrocities. As I talk to you now, that issue has been dealt with by INEC in a simple way, writing letters to the governors that, look, on election day, sit at home. Shikenan, it's as simple as that. And this one too, write letter to all these people who have defected. Look, you have defected. We have declared your seat vacant, and we are going to conduct election, by-election on so date. Shikenan, it's as simple as that. And then let them go to court and contest it. Let's know the law under which they want to come out.
You have been involved in election monitoring observation. Tell us, if INEC were to conduct a procedure of a new, fresh election for defecting lawmakers, what would this look like? For example, in the case of the 37 lawmakers in the House of Representatives.
It's a by-election. It's election. It's in a constituency. Then INEC, they all have their constituencies mapped out. The various areas in which they represent, they know it. It's not in the air. It's not anywhere in unknown. Those who defected in Kogi, maybe in Nasarawa or wherever, all you need to do is that you fix election days on those days, and that's all. It can be simultaneous, and it can be staggered. So there's no big deal.
So on the very day that a lawmaker crossed from one side of the hall to the other, he or she stops being a lawmaker.
That's what the law says. Did I make this document? I didn't make this document now. That's the law that we operate. Of course, some of us say yes, it's a military decree, but as I talk to you now, that's the law that is operation. And this is the law through which
and you don't find fault in it?
No, to me, it's okay. Because that's the law. He's saying that he wants to see how they can make an amendment. Why not? If it is sales, then of course, but there is something we call repugnance to natural justice, equity. Something you say you got to an office on this footing, and you now jumped, and you now say, come on, get away. I'm not interested. No. He was making an argument now that you serve people. And of course, you should not be attached to the political parties. No. If you got in as an independent candidate, no problem. But I say, and I maintain it, and I stand to be corrected, that you got elected on a platform, because the law now is that in Nigeria, you can't contest as an independent candidate. You get there on a platform, which is a political party. And the law says here that if you leave that political party, then you lose your seat. And somebody is arguing. I don't understand that argument, too.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister Wale Ogunade and Honorable West Idahosa. This is with me, and we're talking about defections, political defections in Nigeria. When we go on a short break, and when we return, we shall be talking about June 12 and the relevance to democracy in Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.